three things that came together. The first was 20 or 30 years ago, going round the palace at Knossos in Crete. And it's an amazingly modern palace. The pictures are very light and have a very contemporary feel about them. But the palace was actually built and the pictures were drawn longer before Julius Caesar and Jesus Christ than we are after. And I got this perspective that perhaps history hadn't changed in the manner that we thought it had. Perhaps they were just as advanced then as they were, say, Queen Elizabeth's time. So that was the first clue that led me to that thought. The second thing is, living in China, I see this extraordinary change all around me. The rate of change there is difficult to describe to someone who hasn't experienced it. When you go back to places weeks later, you find new buildings that didn't seem to have been started beforehand, on highways that weren't there when you last went there. And you see this incredible pace of change. So I saw the second bit of the puzzle, which is suddenly you get this incredible speed of change. The third thing that's niggled at me for years and years has been the story of the Industrial Revolution and the way it's told. And that is, Arkwright invented the spinning jenny, Watt and the steam engine. You think, yes, but why then? Why not earlier? We know the steam engine existed, or a steam engine existed, in ancient Greece. The models of it, a guy called Hero of Alexandria, demonstrated in 60 AD. So they also had quite complicated machinery. There's a fantastic device that they've dug up called the Antikythera mechanism, which is one of the most beautiful clockwork mechanisms. And again, that's obviously ancient Greek. So there wasn't any kind of technological barrier. And yet this change came very suddenly after what appeared to be thousands of years, not hundreds, but thousands of years of virtually no change at all. And these things are going around in my head, sitting in China, and I thought, there must be somebody who's written something about it. And there are, sort of, but nobody's actually asked the question, why did all that start? And then it isn't just the Industrial Revolution, but you discover that at the same time, obviously there's a transport revolution with canals and then railways. And then you discover at the same time, quite independently it seems, there was an agricultural revolution, with production going up 3 times in 50 years. At the same time, a social revolution, with slavery abolished, and at the same time, political revolution, at the same time that we went from monarchy to democracy. So all these things happened all at once, and that started me thinking there must be an answer. So what was it that happened, and what caused it? These are utterly perplexing. I had a clue, because for a long time I had known something very odd about the 18th century. And that is that Britain was able to borrow all this money for its wars at 4%. Jane Austen goes on about people with money in the consoles, money in securities, at 4%. And Britain seemed to be able to borrow money whenever it wanted. The French in that same century found it very difficult to borrow money at 18%. And I thought that's very odd, because France is very rich. Was then, is now. Even more difference then. And how was it that they couldn't borrow money at all easily, not without giving the lender a title of nobility and things like that. And yet the English could borrow all this money. So that niggled at me for a long time. It seemed an extraordinary difference, and it seemed to me a very telling difference that happened in the wars over that period. And one of the reasons why, perhaps the main reason why, England came out on top at the end of all those wars was because England had all the money it wanted at such a low interest rate. So that was a good clue, which then started building onto new ideas. But at the core, I was sitting there thinking, I don't know why this change happened. There must be a reason. I read everything I could about it, and nobody else knew. And then it became apparent that quite a lot of people had some clues. And if you read it, you can see that people like Matt Ridley or Joel Mokyr, who's the doyen of historians of this period, do touch on the 2 critical factors that made the change and are the source of the birth of now, which is the arrival of a system of law and the liberation of money.